Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Off the Top. I am your host, Anthony Bonet, and joining me for this episode across the table from me is Rachel Peterson. Rachel, how are you?
I am doing well, Anthony. Thank you for having me today. Excited to be here.
Awesome. And then right next to her, also joining us, is Fernanda Altamirano. How you doing?
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Fernanda, I need to thank you personally for having a really cool name that I can pronounce in a really cool way.
Good to hear. I actually have a nickname, Feri, which I never know if to introduce myself as Feri Altamirano or Fernanda Altamirano.
Well, what do you prefer? We can go with whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
That's not. I'm tough with decisions. You know how bad I am in the subway line? Like, I don't know what I want on my sandwich, so I don't know what to call you.
You can say Fernanda.
Fernanda.
Not a lot of people say the full name.
Okay. Fernie.
It's fine.
I'll compromise. Oh, well, thank you guys for being here, and thank you listeners and viewers for tuning back into another episode. Can we just go over what do you guys do at the agency? Rachel, what do you guys do? What do you do?
Yeah, so I am currently a media coordinator for the agency. I've been part of the agency since my freshman year, where I actually started as an account supervisor. So it has been a long journey to get here, but primarily I do a lot more so of the back-end research, doing a lot of social listening. I've been able to work with exciting clients like Coke and Microsoft, to more niche startup clients, like we had a client Volta a few years ago. That was a lot of fun, a huge adventure. And my most recent project has been hosting a fun event the agency hosts every year called Brand Bowl. Super fun, big research study that we do every year, and have the chance to produce a case study. So we just wrapped that, finished up our case study, and that was super fun. Just a lot of event planning involved there. So I've done a little bit of it all, but it's been a wild ride and a good one for sure.
Awesome. Fernanda, top that. I'm kidding. Now, what do you do?
I really can't, because I'm a new hire here at the agency. So I got hired in November, but I really started in January as a strategist. Now I'm lead strategist of the research department. Just closed up the account Carnival. That was really good, doing social listening, so also familiar with that. Really exciting for what the next year is gonna bring for us and the new clients that we're onboarding.
So, Off the Top, as you all may know, is a podcast where students from the agency at UF discuss an eclectic set of topics for your and our entertainment and enrichment. Audio versions go up every other Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or you can watch the video version on YouTube if you want to see our faces as we talk to you. If you like hearing us in your ear holes, please make sure to like, give high ratings, subscribe, etc., etc. That is what keeps the mics and the lights on around here. Okay, so now for the rest of the show, all three of us came with topics that we want to talk about. Topics range anywhere from super serious to fun and silly. The way that we decide who will go first is I have this pack of dice from the hit game Dungeons and Dragons. I used to be a big player in high school. Have you guys ever heard or played this game?
Can't say I have. I'm so sorry.
Only heard of it.
Only heard of it. Well, okay, it doesn't matter. You don't need to know this to go where I'm going with this. But I have the classic 20-sided die that we will all roll. And I keep changing the rules on who goes first or whatever. I'm just going to go with something simple. Whoever rolls the highest will go first. And then we go in descending order for who goes second, who goes last. Okay, so I'll go first, and then I'll pass on to Rachel. Rachel will pass on to Fernanda. Okay?
Perfect.
Alrighty, first roll here. One.
I think we can beat that.
If you can't beat that, then I'd be surprised.
All right, here we go.
Solid tie.
Fernanda just rolled. Fernanda rolled a
12.
A 12.
Ooh.
That's considerably more
that's a
than.
pretty good one. More than 50% there. One.
Oh, we have to fight. We have to fight
so
now.
We have to roll again now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no. Like we have to fist fight for it.
Oh, I'm a first degree black belt in karate.
Oh shit. Oh, never mind. We're rolling. We're rolling for it. You can roll again. Where'd it go? Okay. Roll again.
20.
Well, I can tie it. Hold on. I can tie it. I didn't tie it. Okay, so
Sorry, I'm
it is Rachel, Fernanda, and I. So Rachel, you have a
Okay.
topic. Please introduce us to your topic. Set the table.
Yeah, so today I kind of just wanted to, I guess, bring to the table the idea of imposter syndrome. Just because, like, as I've kind of talked to not only like people in the agency, I actually remember I kind of first became aware of imposter syndrome through the agency because we were just all kind of talking about just like summer internships and everything. And one of my friends at that point, this was back 2 or 3 years ago, brought up the idea of like imposter syndrome and how it's kind of so easy for us to like just keep doing tasks and keep learning more, but still feeling like we're not good enough. And it was funny because up until that point, I had been like feeling this way, but just never had the terminology kind of like to go with it. So just a very like interesting topic that as I've talked to like more people, not only peers in and out of the College of Journalism here, but just like even adults too. It's amazing how much of the time people actually like struggle with this, if you even want to like say that, just because I think it's something that isn't necessarily like, I wouldn't call it like a mental illness, but it's just like, it's kind of a hurdle, I guess, through like education and everything. So like in preparation for this episode, it was kind of fun just to like really dive into kind of the nitty gritty and really recognize like this is something that is happening like a lot of the time, but people just like don't know how to talk about it. So yeah, I think just like, especially as we are in kind of that peak internship job hunting season, I don't know, Fernando or Anthony, if you guys have any like insight there just on the job internship hunt right now, because it's a difficult one. I hate it. I just finished that, thank goodness. But nothing wrecks you like getting rejection after rejection. So yeah, so I guess just kind of on that note, just to give imposter syndrome a definition, I actually watched a TED Talk. They're amazing. If you haven't been watching TED Talks, yeah, I love them. They're a great way just to kind of get PowerPoints in there. And I found that it actually has like some additional names. Some people might call it imposter phenomena and imposter experience. And it's first and foremost not a disease or abnormality. It's just kind of rooted in the idea of like, kind of like I mentioned earlier, like we're doing so much, we're striving to learn more, and it's kind of that repetitive circle of like, okay, like I'm doing all of this, but I still don't feel good enough. So what can I do more? What can I become kind of just like super like broad but super deep in knowledge within. And I know kind of just like in my own experience, even coming into the agency, I remember coming in as a freshman and then in my sophomore year leading an account, kind of like you were saying earlier, Fernanda, just leading kind of Carnival and feeling the imposter syndrome. I definitely felt that because it was like I was being handed these tasks like media pitches and other very industry niche things that I was just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, how am I supposed to be delegating these? And just kind of like doubting my worth really and wanting to gain knowledge there. That was kind of when I first felt this. And really at the root of it all, kind of, I think what hit home for me is it's really imposter syndrome comes when people who might be highly accomplished tend to see others as being equally skilled or accomplished. And I think just even within the College of Journalism, as we see our friends and peers getting these internships with Warner Media and Coca-Cola, and I know for like some of our telecom friends like CNN and just some of the bigger producers in that field, it's hard because it's like, okay, I'm literally not getting any of these. All I'm getting is no. It's like, what am I doing wrong? And that's definitely something that I felt. And it's just kind of like you almost forget that you are so qualified still. Like just even like being involved in the CJC is something like so incredibly cool. And just like the resources we have here, I think that's something that like I've just come to really realize is it's like you are qualified. And that's even an affirmation I have to tell myself like time and time again, is like just even fighting that like you might not be doing as much as somebody else, but that doesn't mean you're not qualified. And that's definitely been, I think, just a big benefit in fighting imposter syndrome. So yeah, like I don't know, Fernanda, if you have any kind of experience, or Anthony to tap in there, excuse me, but yeah, that's kind of just been my experience, and it's been cool to read other stories, but yeah.
Well, I feel like the first time that I I guess, kind of defined imposter syndrome was college applications.
Yes.
big one. That's where it kind of starts for a lot of people. In high school, and so yeah.
So I feel like senior year was just kind of an isolating time where everyone is just kind of gatekeeping their journey of applying to university and suddenly getting into all these big name schools. And you're like, how do you get there? How do I myself, like, from the things that I've done, why am I not achieving the same things with that? So some friends of mine that have gotten into the Ivy League, for then me getting into the Ivy of Florida, I didn't really feel that I was as accomplished as them, but I went to the same schools, I went to the same club activities. It wasn't like, of course I deserved to go to like a top school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when it comes to kind of hone in on some of your personal experience there, what do you think the Ivy League saw in the people who got accepted into there that they didn't see in you?
I feel like there was definitely a different drive in those individuals. Like, I'm speaking specifically to a friend that went to Yale and Cornell. Both of them had these very specific niche interests that they were able to hone in on during their senior year. And I feel like they focused on, whereas my senior year, was very open to a lot of things. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So then it was definitely like something on me where maybe I didn't try hard enough. Maybe I haven't found my thing yet. So the imposter syndrome was also like, okay, but do I even deserve to have imposter syndrome? It's like a very layered thing.
No, yeah, I completely get where you're coming from. And now, like, even thinking back, I think just because I think just as creatives in general, there's a very, like, multifaceted nature we all carry where it's like we kind of want to touch it all and do it all. And it's not like that drive and that focus, which I don't think helps at all just with our imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I think because I'd like to put a little bit of a different slant on imposter syndrome, because it's often brought up in negative terms, and often it can't be negative. It can be debilitating for you to constantly think you're not good enough, because confidence is a big part of people who find success in their lives. But at the same time, just a little bit, like I've found in my experience, just a little bit of imposter syndrome, just a drop, just a pinch, it's allowed me to not be complacent.
That's true.
With just who I am and what my qualifications are and things like that. So in the example of getting into colleges and things like that, looking back, I mean, at the time I did not think like this. I was much less mature in high school. I applied to Harvard kind of as a meme. Just like, oh, can I get in? No, I wonder if I can get in.
Same.
Did either of you get in?
No.
I got deferred.
You got deferred?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But like I didn't get in.
But that's more.
Yeah.
But that's more.
That's step
I got. Yeah, that's one step closer. They at least gave you a second look. After my interview, they were like, no thanks, not at all.
The interview was funny.
I actually got there late to my interview, which probably didn't help.
No.
So that probably didn't help. But yeah, in getting into colleges, looking back on it, like, okay, what did I have? And then that's why I asked you this, because okay, what was I missing that somebody else who got into an Ivy League school didn't have? And I would say the exact same thing that you said, like a certain drive. Because I remember the application for Harvard, one of the things that they asked about was a portfolio. I didn't even know what a portfolio was. Like, what? Yeah. I don't have anything like that. What? And I came to realize that, man, the kind of people who get into top schools like this are people who are fixated on reaching this goal from a really early age.
Yeah.
And it's either something that they're born with or something that's instilled in them through how they're raised or the kind of culture that they're around. And so when I'm dealing with imposter syndrome, to me, it's like, okay, it gives me a sort of goal in mind that I need to be focused on. And it keeps me from not putting in enough effort, resting on my laurels.
It allows a lot of growth I feel like if you can kind of control imposter syndrome to kind of, like you said, Anthony, not stay complacent, but continue growing. I think it's almost when it kind of causes, again, that fear factor of, I don't want to do this just because I'm not good enough. But I think when it can kind of be the motivator behind, okay, I want to learn more because like I want to learn more. And interestingly enough, like I actually learned through the TED Talk as well that imposter syndrome was actually first studied by psychologists in female college students, and it's now been transferred across genders, a various array of demographics, socioeconomic status, to kind of see how that may all play in. And ultimately, like studies have shown, I mean, kind of common sense here, it would seem, but that even undergraduate students, so like literally our demographic, while receiving high grades in school, actually they felt like they didn't deserve a spot to be there. So I think it's just interesting too to think to the whole kind of Yale discussion too, of like how you were saying, Anthony, like for so many people that has been the goal, and it's like once you reach that goal, where do you go from there? So I think to your point too, like there's a healthy level of imposter syndrome, but it's like, how do we balance that? Because even Albert Einstein struggled with imposter syndrome,
it's a great
believe it
question.
or not, because like he is known to like have called himself an involuntary swindler, who basically within that kind of terminology, he felt his work received the attention that it didn't deserve, which like to me that was mind boggling, because I'm like, Albert Einstein is a genius like across the board, and he even struggled with this. So yeah, I think I really just like the point of like there's just a healthy level of imposter syndrome. It's not a bad thing, depending on the way that you look at it. And I know definitely for me, like speaking through going through now finishing up my 4th year here at the College of Journalism, getting ready to graduate, like it definitely has come in seasons where I felt more qualified for certain things. And then there's other things where I'm like, am I qualified to be here? But it's kind of just like, again, having kind of that I'll get through it attitude, allowing yourself to grow, and then continue to learn. So yeah, and I think just like the biggest thing is just continuing to encourage others, because the big takeaway that I've kind of taken as I've been looking at various studies and everything is, I think just the biggest encouragement is not receiving positive feedback, but actually kind of being that more relational aspect. Like if you find out that somebody else might be struggling with, like sharing from your honest experience of like, hey, like I struggle with that too. Just more based on relationship, because I think it's comforting to know that you aren't alone, because I think imposter syndrome is just something that nobody really talks about, yet we all face. Because I know even my roommate and I, she's in telecom and also graduating this year, she struggles a lot with like watching her friends do these amazing things, but she's just like, what am I doing that I should be doing? So I think it's kind of a nature that we carry here as creatives, but definitely helps to talk about. So like, sit down.
I think part of it is also like when I feel like when I've gotten to a place that I wanted to get to, it's kind of the phenomenon of the grass is always greener on the other side, where I get somewhere, in high school, people who were UF was like shining like Emerald City. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it looks so shiny from the outside. And then then you get here, and then humans adapt really quickly. So I get to UF, and then UF goes from being the goal after high school to just being, okay, this is just where I am.
Yeah.
I'm now here.
Yeah. And we complain about the day-to-day too. It's like we forget about.
Whereas like I hear, I visit my high school when I go back home to speak with the students and try to, like encourage them. Like I like to do that for my teachers, my old teachers. And it's funny seeing the kids like, oh yeah, I really want to get into UF, and like, yeah, good luck. Yeah. But it kind of sucks sometimes. Sorry.
Yeah. Honesty.
But then like, oh, but we're here, and yeah, you can't forget that. No, yeah, you're here. Don't take yourself out of it for a little bit and say, hey, no matter how it's feeling right now, just remember the kind of accomplishment. Like look at the fact sheet here. You did all this. You did all that. You got to UF. You got the internship at your place. You're leading the account. Like nobody else is doing that, but you.
Yeah.
And so for anybody out there. So part of the reason that we do this podcast is to attract more people to try to apply to the agency and highlight the kind of people that are here, so that we can show, hey, we're not just these really talented people that are on the other side of that big glass that's in Weimar when I walk past it. No, we are like you as well. You know, like when you get here, yeah, there's people who feel like they're not good enough. There's people who are going through their own issues. So yeah, there's a great variety of challenges that everybody faces.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. Don't think that you're unique in the challenges that you face. You know, everybody's going through something. Talk to people. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Step up, own it, do it, and carry yourself confidently. So, yeah.
Yeah. On that note, I mean, it's very easy to learn how to do things. People want you to ask questions and they want to answer them. I feel like the reframing imposter syndrome as like a challenge is so important, but also like there's just so much room to grow if you really find that motivation in yourself and okay, well, where can I create the opportunities for myself? Because even if there are like the systematic issues of, you know, some people just not having the same resources, not being able to like just simply getting into the agency, like there's all those resources that you get once you're in a certain space. But it's very easy to go talk to professors, talk to your peers, try to figure out one-on-one what you want, and then eventually find what you need.
Yeah, because the term imposter is so isolating, right? Because if you're an imposter, that means that you're different from everybody else and you're hidden from everybody else. So yeah, there is a
negative connotation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean that's a negative. Yeah. That's a negative word. So maybe the key to fighting the bad form of imposter syndrome is connecting yourself with other people and not feeling secluded from other people.
Exactly.
Almost recognizing that it's a shared struggle. And I think it's too interesting to really see where it comes to light. And I think it comes to light in a lot of leadership positions where then it's like you're not the one being delegated to, but you're kind of the one leading the charge. And I know I've had the opportunity to lead incredible teams, just like the Brand Bowl initiative that we discussed a little bit on earlier. And that was just a lot of like active applying of my acquired knowledge just through the agency, through coursework, people management, everything. And it was kind of, I struggled with imposter syndrome within that too. But again, like using that to aid me and just kind of continuing to better myself and fight those thoughts of like, hey, I don't deserve this, while recognizing I do deserve this. Because I think just even looking back now, it's like nothing I've been given over the course of my time at UF has been without reason. So it's like, just again, remind yourself that you are where you need to be. And Fernanda, I know you've had the opportunity to just kind of lead some things during your time here at UF. So would just kind of love to like hear a little bit more about that and just kind of maybe how you've struggled, how you've learned, how you've grown. Yeah,
so I feel like your topic was such a great segue into mine. For anyone that doesn't know, I am the president of the Mexican American Student Association here on campus. So we're also known as MASA or UF MASA. Definitely check us out on Instagram. So being a part of MASA is also under this like larger branch of HSA or the Hispanic Student Association. And it's just one of I think we have 900 plus clubs here at the University of Florida. So it's daunting, you know, to first of all be a president and lead just like a very small population in UF campus. I'm not sure if the research has been updated yet, but Hispanics make up about 20% of the UF campus. That is, I think, the second biggest population after white people here. So that's about like 10,000 students. And I don't know how many of those are Mexican, but I do know that like the population that comes to our events are probably between 40 and 70 people.
That's a big draw.
Yeah.
That's a big draw.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been just a great journey for myself because of where I started. I started as just a little freshman coming into UF, going to the club fair. I remember I created a PowerPoint of after going through all of the clubs in UF and saying like, which ones do I want to be a part of? And the list probably had like 50 clubs.
Jeez.
And then trying to narrow down the specific ones that I wanted to find. And the one that ended up interesting me the most, like at a tabling event, was the Mexican American Student Association, because I was like,
Wow.
I'm Mexican, like I might as well find my people.
There's a good fit there.
Yeah.
It's very relational, relatable.
Yeah, and I grew up in Miami, so lots of
Okay.
Cubans, lots of Venezuelans.
Shout out Cubans. I'm Cuban.
Yeah. 305 forever.
Oh, right. I was born there, not raised there. I was raised in Naples.
Okay.
Yeah, so just 2 hours away.
Pretty close. So Miami was just a very diverse, very Latin Hispanic community, but I didn't really know many Mexicans growing up, so I was like, this is the place where I can find it. So I started as a general member. I unfortunately didn't go to that many meetings. There was a couple of general body meetings where I was able to have elote, learn about like specifically my journey of being Mexican, whether I wanted to be Mexican American, Mexican American.
What's the difference between Mexican American no dash and Mexican American with a dash?
So having Mexican space American is realizing that they're both separate entities that also work together. People find that adding the dash is like a false connection sometimes.
Like a blending.
Right.
Okay.
When in reality, sometimes it's not really accepted that much. Really choosing your own identity, whatever title that you want to go with, that's like a very personal thing. So definitely some people prefer the dash, some people don't. Even like Chicano, Chicanx, specifically like from the California region or like just around the Texas area as well.
It's funny you bring up the thing about the choosing like kind of the label to identify with, because my dad, my parents are both from Cuba and then they immigrated here.
Wow.
And my dad, he loves this country so much that he puts American first. Like he doesn't call himself Cuban American so much as he just calls himself an American, because he's like completely bought into the country, into the values. He loves his place so much, and it's much the chagrin of my mom, because my mom would be like, what, hello, you're Cuban, you were born in Havana, you weren't born here. What are you doing wearing those that cowboy hat and cowboy boots? You're not a redneck. What are you doing? My dad is like heavy, like he listens to country music, like he has the truck, he has the chicken coop. He's like when I say all in, he's all in. And my dad's like, no, I'm American. So yeah, that the different people like to have different levels of identity that they like to associate with.
So that's one of the things that I like about Masa most, that you realize all the different identities that come with being Mexican, and specifically the different intersectionalities with color of our skin, specifically whether we come from a city or a smaller town. We actually had a general body meeting last week, last one of the semester, where we talked about Mexican identity, and where Dr. Cecilia Suarez, who is our club advisor, spoke about her own journey, being born in Texas and being very Texan, proud of like being an American and surrounded with just a school of Mexican people. Her community was all Mexican, not really having to say that you're Mexican, to going to Miami and people asking like, where are you from? No, but where are you really from?
Yeah.
You know?
No, like actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we all speak Spanish here, but where's your Spanish from?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's funny. Miami's a really unique city.
It is.
Because it's like, I haven't been to many cities. I haven't been to many places outside of Florida, but I know that at least in Florida, Miami's like, it's kind of not, it's kind of like a different country.
Right.
When you go there, because like there's more signs in Spanish than there are in English. It's interesting.
Which is why the whole Mexican identity topic is so interesting to me, because for the most part, like I say I'm from Miami, you know, because it's like I was born there,
right? I
was raised there, and I didn't have too much Mexican influence. But then coming here and being like just a complete culture shock, and being like, this is nothing like Miami. I don't know where you grew up.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Minnesota.
Okay.
So very different.
Pretty far. Other side of the country.
Quite literally. I'm also Norwegian and Scandinavian. So very different cultural experience. But yeah.
Awesome. How's the weather here compared to Minnesota?
It's very toasty. I moved down here in 8th grade, and I think just even for me, I think coming to a place now where it's like I was around very much people of like the same cultural backgrounds to even like moving down here and being exposed more to like the Latinx, Hispanic cultures. I think it's been just like even a really cool growing opportunity for me. And I think just even like coming through college now and being exposed to organizations is it, what's the abbreviation? Mexican American Student
MASA.
Yes. Okay.
Masa.
Thank you, Fernanda. But yeah, it's just like there's so many different stories, which I think is so cool. That even I've learned, and it's like there's so many different ways to own your own unique identity. But yeah, ultimately, Anthony, to answer your question, definitely a big culture shock, multiple levels coming down here, but it's definitely been cool. And yeah, now as I move up to Georgia, who knows? That'll be a whole new
Going all over the place.
culture experience. Yes.
I have family who, when they came, cousins who, when they came from Cuba in the 80s, they skipped Miami. No, well, they went to Miami first, but then they went to Michigan. Of all places. Like,
I can't believe they went from warm to like extreme cold, because it is an Arctic tundra up there.
They went from Cuba to Miami to Grand Rapids. Like, what?
That's
like,
a big jump.
Like, that is,
yeah.
hats off to them. That takes a lot of bravery to move away. I did an episode with Cherry and Cherry Chick, and she talked
It's her
about
birthday.
Happy birthday, Cherry. Oh my God.
When we're recording this.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Cherry. And she was talking about how she moved, she moved from Hong Kong to here. And like, man, people like that, like who move to completely different places, and it's a different temperature, different climate, different language, different culture,
different food, different everything.
Yeah. One of the things that's great. I love that you bring that up, because one of the things that they say is like, man, I miss the bogaita, the congri, the rice, the beans, all that stuff. Like,
love rice and beans, the good authentic.
Frijole.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. But for me, it's Midwestern hot dishes.
Okay.
So
Midwestern hot dishes.
So basically, it's casserole, but we call it hot dish. So it's basically anything you bake in like a big glass, like 8x10, like tater tot hot dish. It's a lot of heavy, creamy gravy. So again, a very different cultural experience. But
still warm in the cold.
Exactly. When you're in the cold, it makes sense.
You need a lot, yeah.
Yeah,
you need a lot to fill you up and keep you warm.
You really do.
When the blizzards.
Yeah, literally -16. That was the coldest.
Are there any Dairy Queens up there?
Oh, that's where Dairy Queen was founded.
Oh my God. How do you think? I can't imagine selling a Frosty to somebody in Minnesota when it's freezing outside.
I want to say, I could be so wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure they closed a lot of the local Dairy Queens during the winter because it got so cold. So they would be open like water parks from Memorial Day to like Labor Day.
Oh my God.
And then close them.
Fernanda, in your experience moving from Miami to Gainesville, because we were just talking about food, has the food been any to your liking in Gainesville, or is there something that you're missing here?
It's been okay. I will say there's a couple of like good restaurants here and there where I got a little surprised. I'm like, okay, this.
Do you want to shout them out?
Yeah, please.
Little pockets of culture. I feel like Momoyaki was one of the first restaurants that I went.
I've heard good things about that.
I can't remember what type of food it was, but really good. It's close to that CVS on 13th.
Isn't it right by like the La Tienda?
Yes, by the Lark.
Okay. Yes.
In terms of Mexican food, can you recommend any good ones here? Like, because I'm not looking for Chipotle, or I'm looking for Taco Bell. My hatred for Chipotle is well documented. Where is like what's in your estimation, what is the best that's around here, if you ever had that?
I have very bad memory, so I have to admit that I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was this off the top of my head. But there was this one, let's see if I can find it. This Mexican restaurant that I think I went like on a Sunday morning or something, and there was just a bunch of Mexican families there, like eating breakfast. I don't know if it was like after mass or something, but it just definitely felt like very homey. Let's see.
I went to there's that Cuban cafe Mi Pa. That's
I was gonna ask you what your thoughts on that are.
yeah, I've been there once, and yeah, it felt authentically Cuban on the inside because the English speaking population was a minority there.
Right.
Like, okay, cool. Like the people there are speaking Spanish. Like they take your orders in Spanish. Great. Awesome. So good so far. And the food was pretty good. It was a little expensive, which I guess they can get away with because there's not a lot of Cuban food here. So they're gonna gouge you until you can and because there's no other competition. I had a frita. Do any of you know what that is?
I've seen them. Haven't tried one.
Yeah, you never had one?
No.
A frita is like it's a burger that's like cooked in this red sauce, and then they put the little like fried potato chips on there.
Oh,
like
Picnic? Is that the brand? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the brand.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like they put like ketchup, onions, all that stuff together, and then like a roll of Cuban bread, like Cuban bread roll,
So good.
and they give it to you like that.
I'm getting hungry.
Okay, I found the restaurant. It's called La Pasadita.
La Pasadita.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's a little far from campus, going down 13th, but really good. I don't know. I feel it's very difficult, like coming from Miami, such an international place, like finding those like areas of like similarity to like your upbringing. But like there's definitely niche groups that you can find.
Even then, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Like Mia Pa Mia Pa was good, but it's just not the same. Like a frita from Mia Pa is not the same as a frita from El Rey de la Frita, like in Miami, next to Presidente Supermarket. That like right. It's just so different.
El Palacio de los Jugos.
Oh my god, dude, what a staple.
I know.
Una completa from Sedano, dude, hits so hard.
Versailles is on a really good weekend, with your puppies.
And Rachel's like, yep,
monologue. I need to visit Miami. I really
do.
So, and I'm an adventurous eater, so like any recommendations you'll have, send them my way.
So there's a part of leading an organization on UF. The organization side, the administration side. You have to go through some regulation, some red tape when it comes to SG. Before the podcast, we were talking about any potential tea that you could spill, Fernanda, because I know I'm also an officer in a club.
As am I.
In another association. What club? What club are you an officer for?
I am the operations and logistics coordinator for the Mount Retreat. It's a weekend retreat for incoming freshmen. So I basically plan the entire 3 days.
Oh wow!
So we are all club leaders here at UF.
Very accomplished.
We must have some great stories about some things. So I mean, Fernando, what do you got?
I think the craziest thing about imposter syndrome, like as being someone like in a student organization, is really the programming of events. Because I mean, setting up a party for like 50 people, ordering food, ordering prizes, something as simple as like a flag or a table mat to put down, like you really have to kind of have your hands in a bunch of different places. And especially like being a leader, I know that sometimes I don't really prepare for meetings, but I know that I have to have everything listed in my mind, ready to take care of every single aspect. And learning how to delegate tasks, I feel, is it's really
skill.
Helpful.
Yeah, it's a skill.
You mentioned delegating. My head started hurting immediately because I suck at delegating. I'm like, no, I got to make sure everything's done right. I get into everything.
It's very difficult, but once you kind of learn how to manage it, people can just do a better job and focus on the things that they need to be doing. Because if somebody doesn't know what they're doing, that's really where like the imposter syndrome sets in, and where you're like, I should be doing something, my peers are doing something, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like too, it's also comes from like when you recognize the hard work it takes to get there. But like even for me, I know planning the retreat weekend, it's like I slave over that for like a good month, like getting the logistics, everything worked out, and then for everybody else, it's just a matter of show up, have a good time. And I think like that kind of can feed into like the whole imposter syndrome too. Even like planning meetings and like ordering those placemats, like they seem like such monotonous tasks and just like simple tasks, but they're so important. And I think that can kind of like you were saying, Fernanda, the whole programming side is like really a beast in its own. But yeah, equally as important.
It's because people don't see
Yes.
that aspect of the planning. Anyone who just has to show up as a volunteer, they're like, oh, like Rachel makes it look so easy.
Yeah.
Like she definitely didn't
They
do
don't see
that
the
hard of
tears.
a work.
Oh
She
my
didn't
God, yeah.
put in 30 hours of her
Yeah.
weekend into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much. I mean, just with this podcast alone, like so
Right.
much goes into this. You know, I gotta take this opportunity to shout out my great podcast team. We got videographer Angel sitting on the bench over here,
Yeah.
making sure that everything's going right. If it wasn't for her, if it wasn't for people like Melissa, who's been on the podcast, Michael, who's been on the podcast, man, this I don't know where this would be. I'd be like I'd be still in my closet recording fake podcasts on a headset. You know. It takes a village to get anything done.
It really
The
does.
journey matters.
Oh yeah, and it's not just what people see. It's that iceberg. You know, the iceberg analogy. You see the iceberg, but below that it goes way far down. It goes way far down. You know, I have a question about like something to just kind of think about. Who are the kind of people who feel imposter syndrome, or does everybody really feel imposter syndrome? Because and where I'm going with this is like people like did Hitler feel imposter syndrome, or did he feel like he was the right guy all along? You know, like where like did people in history who were behind, like who we think of like totalitarian dictators, people like that, people who are, you know, deemed as like, hey, bad people, did bad people feel that they were imposters, like they weren't qualified? Or did they believe their own hype all along? Because I feel like they must have, right? Because there's that saying that like a villain always feels like they're the good guy. You know, it's like were they imposters? Did they feel like they weren't good enough? Is the human experience that common that it goes to people like that who did terrible things?
Yeah.
I think it goes into the drive that we were talking about earlier. I mean, if we're using Hitler as an example.
I took it to the extreme because
Yep.
I mean you have to like you kind of have to go to the extreme to like find the answers that you're looking for sometimes, and then work your way towards the middle.
I think when you're Hitler and you have these extremely strong ideologies that you have to stick to, I feel like you just can't feel the imposter syndrome because you're gonna like fall off or something. You're gonna make a mistake, and he wasn't someone that like could afford mistakes.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that. And I think, too, he was so, like, Hitler is obviously an extreme example, but when somebody's willing to kind of take ownership of something and really fight for it, I think that's probably more so when they might not struggle with imposter syndrome. But I think it comes down to you're handed something that you feel like you don't like deserve, or you're kind of almost like, whoa, like how did I get here? Like how did I become president of this organization? How did I happen to lead this team in the agency? How did I happen to start this podcast? Like things like that, where you're just handed something that maybe you've dreamt of doing, and then all of a sudden it occurs where you don't even have to like think twice about it. It's kind of just like, oh my gosh, whoa, like I don't deserve this. It's kind of like you start to second guess yourself. Whereas I feel like if you kind of almost have that more self-starter, like I need to fight for this, there might not be as much imposter syndrome there.
Yeah,
So
there might be a level of arrogance and narcissism that you have to not feel imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like a threshold.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Like there's a point that you get to, you know. So yeah, like the imposter syndrome might be what connects the sane people together. Like if you find somebody who has imposter syndrome, then congrats. Like you're passing all like the right steps to be a decent human being.
You're normal.
You're more not normal, because you know everybody has their quirks.
You're human.
You're human, right? Like we can relate to you. Like okay, good. Like you're humble. You're not tasting yourself too much. Like you have a little bit more of a
level head.
Yes, level head. Yes, please. Have a level head. Be fair. Be humble. Man. Oh no. So my topic, I've been interested in ever since high school, when I learned what political efficacy was in AP Government. I've been interested in how people perceive the power that they have to affect change in society or in corporations or whatever. And with that comes like customer efficacy. If political efficacy is believing that you have the power to affect change in your political environment, then consumer efficacy is believing that you have the power to affect change in a company or in the market. So I kind of want to explore this idea of, do we think that customers have the kind of power to affect change? Because and that presents itself in things like boycotts. Before, when you look back at things like the civil rights movement, for example, boycotts and walkouts were a big part of their strategy to show that, to get their message across, to affect change in their environment. Is that still effective? In some of the research that I was doing for this podcast, for this episode, I came across like a data point that says, hey, 88% of consumers want companies to help them to make a difference. And this graph here, this is an article from Forbes.com. The graph is, do you think personal actions like donating, recycling, or buying ethically can make a real difference in the world? 51% say yes, they make a big difference. 45% feel that maybe they make some difference. And the 4%, the cynics, think no, they don't make much of a difference. Now, this graph and this data kind of contrasts with some of the personal opinions that I've gotten, like from friends and from other people listening to other podcasts, where they feel like no, they'd have no efficacy at all. So do you guys, I want to open this up with, like, do you guys feel like you have any efficacy when it comes to affecting change with your buying decisions?
Do you have any initial thoughts?
I will say that I feel like so many factors have to go into play. First of all, how large is this company that we're talking about? Because if we're talking about something like Coca-Cola, who has had issues with supply chain, with wages, with specifically the countries that they're working with, I know government funding is always a huge thing for these companies, like how much land they take up in a smaller country, and like the labor that they use from there. I feel like it can be very overwhelming as a consumer to think, oh, I could have an effect on Coca-Cola. But eventually I think, oh, well, it would have to be a smaller company. It would have to be someone who has those leaders that are willing to listen. I feel like if there's not like a face to the company that I can put to someone that's like has open ears and is willing to listen and give me the time, then I don't really know if the efficacy will be successful.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that point too, Fernanda. I think just like really knowing the company at the core, because obviously if that's where I struggle too with like me as one consumer, like how much of a difference can I truly make just with my own purchasing habits. But I think too, it kind of comes down really to your own moral compass too. I think that's a huge in like kind of what do you stand for personally, because for some people, purchasing from brands who are maybe more sustainable might make them feel better, and for others, it might be something else like animal rights or something like that. Something that kind of jumped out to me, I know, as we were kind of starting to discuss this topic, was with the whole like Black Lives Matter and greater representation pushes for other minorities, and kind of purchasing from brands that kind of fight for just minorities or minority owned, whether that be a Black owned business, a Latinx owned business, and just watching kind of the consumer shift that way, as well as also corporate social responsibility. So really looking at kind of like, what are these businesses doing for these communities? I know those are kind of two, like, I guess, hot topics right now for consumers. I will say though, for like me personally, like I haven't really been the best, I guess, consumer wise at just like purchasing from brands that are like fighting for making a difference, but yeah, because for me it's a lot of times just about where can I get the cheapest alternative for this, and I think as college students that's something we don't really have a lot to choose from, so it's just more so like what's the most like bang for my buck, if you will. So yeah, but this is an interesting approach for sure, just some more food for thought, definitely.
Yeah, I'm glad that you bring the thing about buying cheap because we're college students, and yeah, I mean, price plays a big deal in how, and obviously in how consumers make their decisions.
And it's interesting to me too, because you talk about environmentally friendly products, like those are automatically, I feel like, twice the amount that I would pay for something that might not be, because it's recycled or whatnot. And it's just like, how am I gonna afford this? Like, I want to, but
yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult, I think, for people to stick. Well, no, I'm not gonna say it like that because that's putting a lot of blame on people. But I think just with how the way the market is set up, it's difficult to stick to morals when you're making buying decisions. Because if you're a college student and you want to buy a cheap T-shirt because, you know, like, whatever, your old T-shirt broke and then you need a new one, like, okay, you only have so much money. You're going on Amazon and you see, okay, well, there's this one, you can buy a plain Nike T-shirt that a bunch of children probably slaved to make for, or you can buy another T-shirt that's like, oh, it's made in America, it's, you know, fair wages, everybody was treated fairly, and it's more expensive.
yeah.
Like, well, shit, I want to support American made, and I want to support all the things that I agree with, but right now I need a cheap T-shirt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my paycheck hasn't come in this week. I need a cheap T-shirt right now. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that stuff. And yeah, I think you see a lot of people just kind of, I don't think a lot of people think about this, you know, because you can't. You would be so distraught in thinking about this kind of stuff.
There's a lot of pressure on the consumer to be the one to make the right decisions because we have so many technologies at our disposal, just to be able to compare prices, to get coupon books. I think as a consumer in general, like, they want to spend less. They don't have time to be comparing prices or looking for the best deals. The people that need to buy cheap are the ones that really can't afford to be doing those boycotts or taking time out of their day to write letters to, like, Mr. Target, whoever Target. He may be.
Yes.
Mr. Target.
And like it's not our job,
right?
You know, to make those sustainability decisions, to check up on the wages that companies set for their workers. It's really, like, you know, the government that should be setting those wage minimums. The companies, the spokespeople. When you first mentioned Efficacy, I thought of Billie Eilish. She actually only agreed to be a part of the Met Gala if all designers, like, banned fur from the red carpet. So I feel like it's people with influence that are able to make those decisions and also have time to make those statements.
And affluence.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the kind of things that we're talking about. These are first world problems, right? To have the time to think about such things and the time to worry about whether or not you're making the right decision. Whereas somebody else who's you know, has a family, is just trying to make ends meet, like they don't. I mean, they don't think about it because they can't think about it. They don't. I mean, they're not gonna. No, they're worried about what's right in front of them.
Right.
You know, which I don't begrudge that at all, because you can only worry about what you have control over. If you start worrying about the things that you don't have control over, then you know, you're never gonna do it. You're never gonna get anything done. But then for the people who want to try to buy better, consume better, make change, I mean, I admire this population of people, the 51%, the 45%, who think that their purchases make differences to varying degrees. But for me, like, as a gamer, for example, there's a big trend in the video game industry with countries like China and Saudi Arabia, who have very stained human rights records, you know, and really you know, different types of economies and ways that oppress their people. China, of course, being communist. Like me, as an anti-communist, vehemently anti-communist, I am afraid of the day that a company like Tencent, which is a holding company in China that makes and buys studios, afraid of the day that they buy a company or a studio that makes a game that I like. because shit, like I love this game, but now all my money is in part going to funding a company that is an organ of the CCP. Shit, so now what, like, what do I do? What do I do now? Right? Because does me buying this game make that much of a difference? Does it, do I just swallow that? Like, and another example is, I think probably, like, if we use Anchor to distribute this podcast. If Tencent bought Anchor or Spotify, which does Anchor, now, like, any ad revenue that this podcast makes also goes to Tencent to funding that kind of stuff. So then what do we do as content creators on this? I'd probably start, I don't know, maybe I'm getting this from another podcast that I listen to that uses this same example. I'd start in the episode description, start saying, yeah, Taiwan is a country,
Yeah. Subliminal messaging.
Subliminal messages. Like, every episode starts and ends with Taiwan is a country and free the Uyghurs. Like, shoot, what do we do? Yeah, it's a tough decision.
It is.
I think consumers can have a say, but we really need, I feel like, the company to kind of really define their values, because a company is made from people. Mm-hmm. Like, if you aren't focusing on the needs of the people with, like, the lowest position, like the cleaning people, the interns, like, if you're not addressing their needs, then, like, it's a lot to expect from your general consumer to tell you what they want.
You're saying it's unfair to expect that from a consumer.
Yes, it is unfair.
Yeah. I feel like company culture too is also very important, and the way they portray that company culture, kind of like what you were saying, Fernanda, with the whole, like, how do they treat their bottom level employees to their top level executives. I feel like that's definitely also something worth considering, just within the realm of customer efficacy and just everything, and like purchasing habits, because I think at the end of the day, like, people are people, and you want to be buying from businesses who are supporting people across the board. So I think that's also an important angle to take with this too.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up that point, because there is a lot of, like, we do get a lot of, like, propaganda from corporations that tell us buy better, whatever, and you bring up a good point that, if somebody feels like their purchasing decisions don't make much of a difference, well, is that really our fault? No, it's probably more your responsibility. So why are you telling us to buy better when in reality you could probably be doing a little bit more yourself? You could be doing some, instead of telling consumers to buy better, like, stop hazing us into believing that that will make a difference without your help. If a consumer doesn't think that their buying decisions make too much of a difference, and they feel like a little bit of an imposter syndrome with that, well, then maybe the solution is for companies to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
But then that's a tough ask. Like, are you gonna ask investors to, like, risk their bottom line for
leaders? Step up. Like, right, that's really
make more things in America.
Yeah.
Pay people fair wages.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot.
I think it's really about the conversations.
Yeah.
That are allowed to be had, and that sounds like so general.
Yeah.
But, like, if people are aware of the issues, then more people definitely talk about them.
Yeah.
But you really need those, like, key players.
Yes.
To learn about the issues, because, I mean, if a CEO talks to their consumers face to face, there's, like, a loyalty that is built, that I think you mentioning the revolving door is, like, maybe there's less of a retention or less of, I don't know, loyalty to the consumer, like being a people pleaser as a company. Mm-hmm. That companies that nowadays aren't really focusing their values on. They're just focusing on that percentage that doesn't really care of whatever happens. They're like, oh, they don't care what I do, so I'll just keep on doing what works best for me financially.
Yeah, there has to be a connection that's made between everybody.
Right.
There has to. Big companies can still make an effort to feel like they're closer to you, that they're local, that they're meeting you where you are, and that then together, like, all the stakeholders coming together, we can do something. Because we want to love Disney.
We
I mean,
want to
yeah.
feel special.
we want to feel
Yes.
special. We want to be. We want to feel heard.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Uh-huh.
we want to. You know, I'm sure. You know, we keep using Disney as an example, but but whatever X company, we grew up drinking Coca-Cola and we grew up watching
Yeah.
Disney and we grew up, you know, up doing a bunch of things. We want to be able to do the things that we love with companies that we feel share our
Our
values.
values.
Yeah.
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 Enough said.
Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
So if there are any CEOs, CMOs, shareholders,
CFOs.
CFOs, let's keep going down the list. CTOs,
The entire C-suites.
all
Yeah,
all
the
the
C-suite,
the
in a
entire
nutshell.
C-suite. Put this podcast on your next executive meeting, next meeting with your shareholders.
The internal
Company.
newsletter.
Oh yes, yes.
Blogs.
Oh yeah. Put us
SEO.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put us all in your employees' ears and let's
Free
affect
marketing.
let's affect change together.
Such a powerful statement.
Oh my god. All right, y'all. Any closing comments on this entire experience as we start heading out? We're going on hour 23 minutes right now. How's this been?
It's been fun.
Yeah, I feel like we've covered a lot in an hour and 23, but it's sweet to see how well it tied together. You know, we started talking about imposter syndrome and wound up with the social chain.
Yes.
So look at us go.
we
Yeah.
covered a lot of topics.
Mm-hmm.
And so these podcasts are always a ride because
Yeah.
you go so many different places, and that's why I love podcasts so much, because it's open-ended. Like, we don't have
Yeah.
a script. Yeah, we have our computers open because
Yeah.
we have some points of research, because we don't want to be speaking out of our asses.
Mm-hmm.
but you know, like, we're just bouncing off each other, and listen, we got to this great point at the end here, you know.
Use your voice. It matters.
Yes.
Everybody talks.
Yeah.
Everybody talks. You're not imposter. You can make change.
You matter.
You matter. Nice.
Doesn't matter how low you start, you can get to the top.
As the great Drake once said, started from the bottom, now I'm here. It doesn't matter where you start. You can be at the top, or just anywhere that you need to be to affect change.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, Rachel, you active on social media. Do you want people to follow you, interact with you on there? Where can people find you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely most active on Instagram. I can drop my handle. It is at its.rachel, RACHEL.Marie, MARIE, because there are so many Rachel Petersons out there, you know? We got to get creative. Basic name, but yeah, at its.rachel.marie. So definitely give me a follow, and would love to just share more of my journey with you.
Fernanda, how about you?
Also, most active on my Instagram, so that's at FERYALTAMIRANO. The thing about having a cool last name is it's really long to spell. Terrible for SATs.
Oh my god.
Oh, no.
Having to bubble all that in, I can't
Yeah.
imagine. Like, you go through half your pencil before.
Yeah.
I'm just glad Hispanics don't believe in middle names.
For
Yeah.
real, dude. Yeah.
I'm thankful for my middle name, but yeah.
I'm so glad I don't have a middle name. Like,
Yeah.
it's more, people ask, oh, do you have a middle name? Like, no. What? You don't have a middle name? Like, sorry, don't push your middle name culture on me just because you're jealous that you don't have to deal with that. I don't know if you.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Also, would love to promote my club's different socials. So you can find us on UF Masa or UFMASA on Instagram. We have our link tree. You should be able to find us on all of our social channels. And we actually just reached 1,000 followers
Yo,
on the
Yay!
Instagram.
give a clap to that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nice, awesome, big
Yeah,
milestone.
So fun.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to plug your club's socials? Or?
Yeah. You can definitely follow us at Mount Retreat on Instagram. It's literally at the Mount Retreat, which it is the MOUNT Mount Retreat. So yeah, the Mount Retreat, all one word. It's great. I personally don't know how our Instagram is doing. Melissa Rodriguez, actually in the agency,
Shout out.
manages that one
Yeah.
too. So she's killing it there. But yeah, it's a good time.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and plug my clubs and
Yeah, why
stuff
not?
as well. I mean, if we're already doing it, yeah. So my club, Game Developers Association, we are on Instagram at UFGDA. We're also on Twitter at UFGDA. I also don't know how many followers we have, but we're getting there. Hopefully one day we'll reach 1,000 followers. And also, if you're interested in joining the club, there are no dues, there are no nothing. You're interested in game development, learning more, whatever. It's just a matter of joining our Discord. We have a Discord page, and the link to that Discord is in the bios of the Instagram and Twitter. So we'd love to have you. There's so many people in there, industry professionals. Like it's popping off in there. For myself personally, I'm not very active on Instagram, not very active on Twitter. I just kind of lurk in the shadows, but I do have a blog on Medium that I have some things that I write on there. Sometimes, maybe in the next year or so, I'll update it with something new. But for the meantime, you can find that medium.com/@AnthonyBonet. I have things on there, video essays about video games, and some short stories that are interesting. And that's all I'll say about those short stories. And I do game development, and you can find my games at anthony-bonet.itch.io for some of the games that I've made. And for the agency, for the show, you can remember that you can find this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. If you want to like, comment, subscribe, rate 5 stars, that would help us a lot to get discovered as we build an audience and try to connect with all the CEOs of all the big corporations across the world.
Real social change.
At Disney.
At Disney, if you want to give us a follow, Disney, Mickey Mouse. I know you got a phone. You can follow the agency itself on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok at the agency at UF. The agency at UF is our handle for all of our social accounts. LinkedIn as well, if you want to connect with us on there. And we have a website, so if you're curious about seeing some case studies about our work that we've done with clients, you can head over to our website, theagency.jou.ufl.edu. That's, again, theagency.jou.ufl.edu. These websites, these EDU websites really get long in the tooth.
Yeah,
It's a little
they
bit,
really do.
a little bit much. But right, there we go. Train coming to a stop.
Choo choo.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Angel, for guiding us along and make sure the video's still recording. Everybody
Thanks,
else
Angel.
everybody else out there, stay safe, and until next time, see ya.